One of the most common calls that I get are from people that have saved up a large chunk of cash and now they want to buy raw land in Idaho and build their own house. So in this video, I'm going to discuss all of the major hurdles you can expect to face and why I tell so many people I don't think it's a good idea. Stick around. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Trent and I'm a realtor here in Idaho. If you are interested in learning more of what it's like living, eating, sleeping, working, playing, and buying real estate here in Idaho, then this is the channel for you. So make sure you tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so every time I come out with a new video, you get notified. And guys, I'm serious when I say this. Every single day I get calls, texts, emails from people just like you that have been watching my videos, but they still maybe have a few questions before they can decide if Idaho really is the right place for them to live. And I absolutely love it. That's why I'm here. So if this is you, please feel free to reach out with a call, text, email, day, nights, weekends. It does not matter. We are always here to help you figure out if Idaho is the right place for you to move to. And if it is, we'll help you get here. And guys, after watching this video, tell me in the comments if buying raw land to build on is something that you had your eyes set on. And if this video was a deterrent or if it just made you feel even more confident that that's the way you want to go. I always check the comments, reply to as many as I can, and it's really helpful to get that feedback because it tells me if the videos are actually helpful for people and if they're engaging and if you guys are enjoying them. So make sure you leave a comment. Now folks, I totally understand the dream of buying raw land in a rural area here in Idaho, building a custom home and being able to walk out your front door and not see any neighbors, not have anyone yelling at you, Trent, put some pants on. It's the Idahoan dream. But in order to achieve this dream, you have to jump through some major hurdles. And the first one is, how are you gonna pay for everything? Now, if you're like me, you like to save up your money and pay cash rather than going and getting financing and having another monthly payment. Debt is no fun, and I do my best to try to stay out of it. So you've saved up all this cash and you're looking online and you're seeing these plots of land for a pretty reasonable price, and you go, cool, I've got that much money. I'm gonna go buy this land and I'm gonna start developing it. But there are several major cost factors that you have to consider if you actually want to go this route, and here they are. The first being surveys. Now, not everybody does a land survey, but I strongly recommend it. The only way to know for sure where your property is going to end and your neighbors is going to begin is through a land survey. The worst case scenario is you start putting up a structure or building a driveway or doing development on the property only to find out that the property line that you thought was in place is actually 10 feet over because a land survey wasn't done. And land surveys aren't super expensive. They can range anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000, but it's something that you need to add on to the cost of the property to make sure you know again, where your property ends and theirs begins. The next really big expense that people don't always consider is having a roadway or driveway that leads onto your property. A lot of the property that you see on these third-party websites looks really affordable because there's no way to actually get to the property. You gotta take a four-wheeler or you gotta hike onto it. And the cost of putting in a driveway can range anywhere from $5,000 all the way up to $150,000 if you want to do asphalt and have it be heated. So it's another expense that is not always included in that price that you need to be able to calculate. The other thing to consider is if there is a driveway or roadway, you really want to make sure through a title report who owns that roadway, because sometimes these roadways are shared with neighbors and you have to know who's responsible for repairing it, maintaining it. If something needs to be done to it, where does that cost lie? And do you actually own that road? Or is it an easement that has an expiration date? All things that you really want to look into before you decide, yep, I'm putting my money down on this piece of property. The next very large expense that not everybody thinks of is utilities. If the property is completely raw, meaning it has not been improved on at all, you are gonna need to bring in power, and that can come at a very high cost, ranging from anywhere from $10,000 all the way up to $40,000 and up. And it all depends on how far out your property is and how far they have to bring in the power lines to be able to give your property power. Now, it's not too difficult to find out what this costs. You just give the utility company a call with the address of the property, and they can come out and give you an estimate of what that's going to cost. But a lot of times construction can't even start until there is power out on that property. And not every piece of property can have power brought to it, so definitely something that you want to consider. Now, if you are looking on a third-party website and you are seeing a really nice looking piece of property, good size for very inexpensive, that is definitely something you want to look into, because a lot of times the lower price is there because it's too expensive or not even capable of having power brought in. So you definitely want to look at that. Now, some of you might be watching this going, well, Trent, I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to go 100% solar, so I don't even need to be on the grid. Well, you definitely want to do your research into this. Now, I don't know. I don't have solar. I don't have a lot of experience with solar, but I do know that the last several days have been very, very gray, and it's scheduled to be very gray, overcast for at least 2 weeks. And sometimes we can go up to a month or more of no sun. So you really have to take that into consideration and make sure you have the power, the battery capacity to be able to store power and run your property off of stored power, because we just don't get a ton of sun during the wintertime when you're really gonna need that power. The other thing that you have to consider is, if this is, a lot of people think this is my forever property, I'll never move. But I promise you, if you look up listings, you will see somebody else's dream home that they built themselves or have built. It was their forever home, and for one reason or another, they're selling it. If you are 100% solar, it can be very difficult for someone to be able to get financing to buy that property if it's completely off grid, because again, what if that doesn't work? What if there's issues? It's just a variable that lenders don't like to have in their calculations of risk to reward for getting that loan. So even though being totally off grid sounds really, really appealing, it can negatively affect your home value, your resale value. So something that you want to consider if you decide not to get hooked up to the utility company. Okay, next really big expense that a lot of people don't think about: water. Where's your water gonna come from? A lot of these rural properties out there that you're seeing listed, they probably don't have a well on it if it's a very reasonable price. And in order to get water out there, well, just listen. I gave the company a call so you could hear it directly from them.
For calling H2O Well Service, how may I direct your call?
Yeah, hi. I am calling to find out how far out you guys are to come and drill a well on my property.
About 1.5 to 2 years.
1.5 to 2 years. You have an average price?
A typical well system, if you're looking an average, are you looking the whole system or just the well drilling?
Whole system.
Whole system pump, drill and pump, you're probably looking between 20 and 30,000.
20 and 30,000. All right, thank you very much.
So that's right, guys. 18 months, up to 18 months of waiting, and $30,000 on average to put in a well. Now that's if everything goes well, no pun intended, but that's if everything goes well. If they drill and come to find out, ooh, the water table isn't where we thought it was gonna be, you have to keep drilling. And that can get really expensive really quickly. The other thing that you don't know, the unknown variable if there's no well, is how much will that well actually produce? How many gallons per minute will you have? Another major factor that can make it really tough to get financing. If you're only producing 3 or 4 gallons per minute, most of the lenders out there are gonna go, no, we're not gonna lend on that property, because if that well goes dry, the property value goes way, way down. You have to have water shipped into you and a place to store it, and it just becomes this whole thing. So again, really appealing to go and buy a totally raw piece of land that looks very affordable. But the reason it looks so affordable is because there's these unknown factors. Another cost that you have to consider is septic. This can cost upwards of $8,000, and almost every property is going to require that you have a septic tank out there before you start building. So again, it's not too bad, but you have to add all of these things up when looking at the price of a piece of property, and have contingencies going, hey, if it doesn't work out, if the well isn't as shallow as we thought it was, if it's longer for the utility company than what we originally estimated, you have to have the money in place to be able to afford to do it. And one of the last major factors that you have to consider is the cost of permits on raw land. If you are going to do anything on your raw land, more than likely it's going to require a permit. Just the cost to get a building permit can be upwards of $40,000. So again, it seems like, hey, buying raw land with cash, you've got money saved up, this is a great way to go. It's very risky, and there's a lot more expenses than what people often realize. And so if you don't have plenty of funds saved up, you have to do your due diligence before you actually buy that land to make sure that you are going to be able to afford to take care of all of the costs. So I'm sure at this point, most of you are thinking, Trent, why are you trying to crush my dreams of buying raw land and building a house out in Idaho? And that's absolutely not what I'm trying to do. I am not a dream crusher, but I am a reality sharer. This is the reality of what it's like to buy raw land and trying to pay for it all with cash. And some of you might go, well, shoot, I probably can't afford this then. Don't worry, there are lenders out there that will lend on raw land. But the bad thing is finding the lender that will actually do it can be a challenge. And they also have some very steep requirements in order to get a loan on raw land. A lot of them want to see at least 20% down, all the way up to 40% down. They want to see that you have a high credit score, anywhere from 720 all the way up to 740. And there's just going to be more hoops that you have to jump through. Now, that's just the land loan. That's not the construction loan. Construction loan, if you want to do a construction loan, now you're looking at even more hoops. If you don't have any previous experience in building a house, in running a crew, in hiring contractors, if you don't have a track record of success, they are not going to give you a construction loan. So it really will come down to you having all of the money that you need to be able to build the house on the land that you just bought. Now, the reason that lenders don't like to give loans on raw land is there are so many unknown variables, such as the permits, variable costs, licenses. You have to have expertise on what to develop. But again, it's not impossible. But I will tell you, if you do want to find a lender and try to get financing, the one thing that they're absolutely going to require you have is a really well-designed, thought-out, detailed plan on how you're going to develop that land. And that's going to take a lot of extra time, a lot of extra steps before you even go and make an offer. You need to do all of the research to figure out what does this actually look like. Otherwise, the bank's going to look at you and go, yeah, sorry, we're not going to do this. Now, hopefully I haven't completely scared you off from trying to accomplish this dream of buying raw land and building your own home, because it is doable. There are people that do it, but there's some other factors that we need to consider before we wrap up this video. A lot of people who are wanting to move to a rural place in Idaho have never lived in a rural place, and they don't realize that when you live out in the county, your roads are not always maintained, especially your long driveway leading to your property. So when it comes to maintaining that road, you're gonna need to either hire someone to help maintain it, or you need to get the equipment yourself. I used to go and spend a lot of time out on a farm in Washington growing up, and they had about a half-mile long driveway that after a few months, you would get what we call washboards in the gravel. And that's just from the car bouncing, and any soft spots in the road, it would basically create a washboard. And that is awful on your shocks. It's really uncomfortable to drive over, so you have to bring out a heavy piece of equipment called a grader, and you have to grade the driveway to get rid of any of those spots. You have to bring in extra gravel. You oftentimes want to put down oil to control the dust, and that's just during the summertime. In the wintertime, what are you going to do with all that snow? My brother actually bought 5 acres of property up in Colbert, Washington, And he doesn't have a super long driveway, but long enough where he ended up having to go and buy an older truck, put a snowplow on it, and he clears that snow himself. Now, it was fun at first. He was really excited. He's like, this is so fun, I'm doing it. But after a couple of years of waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. to go clear the driveway in freezing temperatures, is not always that fun. And sometimes the snowstorm doesn't start until after you leave your house. So then you get to your house and you go, I can't get up the driveway. So you're hiking up to your shop to get in the piece of equipment to clear the driveway before you can even get home. It becomes a hassle. Now, again, that's if you want to do it all yourself. There are companies out there that you can hire $200, $500 a month that will come and clear your driveway during the winter. A very worthwhile investment if you don't have free time and you have places that you have to be or responsibilities. If you're retired, you got nothing better to do, it's a lot of fun driving around, getting to play the snowplow, but it is something that you have to consider if you don't have plenty of free time. So even though you can definitely try to get a good deal on property by buying raw land that hasn't been developed at all, you are rolling the dice and hoping that everything works out. Again, I'm not trying to crush your guys' dreams, but this is serious stuff that you have to consider if you want to buy raw land. And I'm definitely not saying that buying raw land and trying to build a house on your own property is a bad way to go. It's definitely not, but you have to know it's not going to be any cheaper going that route than just going and buying a pre-existing home on some property. There's quite a few people right now that have decided that, Idaho's gotten a little bit too busy for them, and so they would like to move. So their dream of buying property and building a house, they've already made all the investments. They took all of the risks of drilling the well, bringing in power, building that house. Now, it's not going to be exactly the way you want it, but I promise to get that house to be closer to what you want it is probably going to be cheaper buying it and remodeling than trying to go and do it all of yourself and do it exactly the way you want it, because there are going to be variable costs that you are not going to know about, and you have to be able to plan for that. Because the worst case scenario is you get out there, you start construction, you're halfway through, and you realize, oh crap, I didn't estimate this properly and I'm running out of money, because you're not going to get your money back. You're going to end up having to sell that property pennies on the dollar, and all of the progress you made is going to go to somebody else. In fact, in the next video that I'm going to do, guys, make sure you check it out. It is going to be building your own home versus hiring a contractor, a custom home builder. And I highly suggest you watch it, because if this is your dream, you really want to know what you're getting yourself into before you get too far into it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, if this is helpful, please give me a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section telling me if this is something that you were considering doing, and if you're still going to consider that, or if you've decided to change your mind and start looking at property that's already has a house on it and it's already been developed. And again, guys, if you are serious about getting moved here and you just have a few more questions, or you need some guidance on where to look, or you're ready to go, Idaho is the place you want to be and it's time to start looking for a house, please make sure you reach out to me day, nights, weekends. It does not matter. I love helping people get set up to move here in Idaho. It really is one of the best places to live. And until the next video, guys, I will see you later.